some 44 million Americans collectively hold over $1.6 trillion in student debt. And these numbers are growing. At the same time, advancements in technology, especially automation, are making it harder to earn a living wage without some type of advanced degree. Today, college graduates earn 80% more than those with just a high school diploma, on average. College is more expensive and important more than ever before. And that contrast puts students in a difficult situation. Do they risk going into debt they can't pay back or miss out on the benefits of a college degree? Today our video will be on the student debt crisis.
It's now often parents and grandparents who are taking on the student debt.
I know I have to face paying this.
Patricia Rizzo took out 7 Parent Plus loans over 8 semesters to get her daughter Emily Rizzo through Skidmore College.
How much did they add up to about?
It's around like 280-some thousand.
$280,000?
$812.
$47,000.
$90,000.
$35,000.
$350,000.
$60,000 worth of student loans.
My minimum student loan payment is $1,000 a month.
It should take me about 10 years to pay that back.
I will be roughly 36.
45 years old.
I don't know how old I'll be when I pay that off.
I was actually on campus at Penn State, and I saw that I had so much to pay, and it just was overwhelming. I didn't know how to do it. I never saw a number that big.
Today, more than 20 million students are enrolled in American colleges, but the foundations of the modern higher education system really started a long time ago, more than 100 years ago. The real formative period for U.S. higher education was during 1890 to 1940, when college started to be something that wasn't just a vocation for people going to school to get a religious education or for the few and the wealthy. In 1919, an estimated 598,000 students were enrolled in American colleges. While historically black colleges and universities and historically women's colleges have existed since the 1830s, the majority of American college students remained wealthy white men for decades. In 1944, the GI Bill was signed, giving millions of veterans, mostly white men, the chance to go to college for free. In the 1954 Supreme Court ruling of Brown v. Board of Education, the court unanimously decided to strike down the separate but equal doctrine created by Plessy v. Ferguson, making school segregation illegal and paving the way for more black students to earn a college degree. In 1958, the Cold War brought fears the U.S. was technologically falling behind, prompting Congress to pass the National Defense Education Act, which offered students scholarships and loans to go to college. At the time, education costs were low and college enrollment grew, so did the U.S. economy. Then, during the Reagan era and the tax revolt of the 1980s, states passed tax and expenditure limitations, restrictions that state governments create to limit the amount they can tax or spend.
And that meant that state budgets came under threat. And so states that used to basically highly subsidize college education for many people started to cut back in various ways, either by raising tuition or by spending less, which means expanding class sizes.
Reagan cut higher education funding and student aid, and college costs boomed as a result. The College Board estimates that during the 1980-1981 school year, on average, it cost students the modern equivalent of $17,410 to attend a private college and $7,900 to attend a public college, including tuition, fees, room and board. By 1990, those costs increased to $26,050 and $9,800, respectively. As costs grew, lawmakers scrambled for new solutions to expand access and cut costs for the government. In the early 2000s, the Bush administration made it a lot easier for online education to grow, and that affected a lot of large for-profit institutions that expanded their enrollment by several levels of magnitude in the mid-2000s. From 2000 to 2010, enrollment in private for-profit institutions increased by 329%. Then in December 2007, the Great Recession hit.
We are in a recession.
A recession that lasts, he thinks, potentially the rest of the year.
Federal and state governments made deep cuts to higher education funding. Many states made massive cuts to funding at public universities. This caused many of these schools to raise tuition in order to recoup the lost revenue. As the labor market weakened, more and more workers looked to higher education as a lifeline. Public and private college enrollments spiked, and many were forced to turn students away. For-profit colleges welcomed those students with open arms. From the start of the Great Recession in 2008 to the relative economic stability of 2018, college costs and debt increased significantly, but state and federal funding for higher education, the biggest source of revenue for most schools, has not returned to pre-2008 levels. In 2018, state funding for 2- and 4-year public colleges was over $7 billion less than what it was in 2008. During the 2019-2020 school year, the average cost of tuition, fees, room and board was $21,950 for in-state students at public universities, $38,330 for out-of-state students at public universities and $49,870 at private nonprofit universities. The College Board estimates that today, college graduates with student loans leave school with $29,000 in debt, on average.
People are horrified about the possibility of not landing a job, not landing an internship, because if you don't land on your feet coming right out of it, what do you do?
It's one of the reasons why I cannot even enjoy being a student here, because every semester I have to worry about, do I have enough money to go to school next semester?
Well, especially people who have to work. I mean, the workload here is enough.
I have a job with the university in order to supplement my income.
Nothing in life comes easy. I think everyone can attest to that.
Get the best job possible to pay off that debt, and that's the best that I can do.
The Education Data Initiative Research Group found that American tuition at public 4-year universities climbed 31.4% between 2010 and 2020. Tuition in many other countries is either fixed or fully free, as in Germany, Iceland, and Sweden. A year of college at a 4-year U.S. university costs $35,551 on average, including tuition, fees, on-campus housing, books, supplies, and other expenses, according to the National Center for Education Statistics. The colleges to which a student applies determine how much financial aid they are eligible for, depending on the cost of attendance and the family's ability to contribute towards tuition and fees. The student may be eligible for federal grants, subsidized loans, and work study. The student can then apply for a loan to finance the remainder of the costs. The federal government doles out the majority of the loans, with the private sector lending the remaining 7%. Borrowers are then required to begin making payments 6 months after leaving college, whether they graduated or not. Several economists, including Al Jazeera, when interviewed said that universities and the higher education industry at large need to do a better job of informing students about the debt they are taking on and what it looks like to enter various types of repayment programs after graduation. I think we've put young people in a really tough position, said Christian Doritis, a leading economist at Moody's, a New York-based research firm. A lot of young people don't have the big picture of what incurring this burden actually means, or they dream about making 6-figure salaries right out of college. A recent study found that U.S. college students believe they will make roughly $103,880 in their first job. The average starting salary for college grads, however, is $55,260. According to the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, Americans are increasingly dependent on credit cards to make ends meet, amassing $46 billion in the second quarter of 2022, the largest credit card balance year-over-year percentage gain since 1999. Meanwhile, households have begun to deplete the excess funds they amassed during the pandemic, according to Goldman Sachs, as the national inflation rate soars. When graduates who are looking for their first post-college job are already $30,000 in debt, the negative effect on the economy is considerable. Despite their qualifications, grads often must settle for lower-paying, lower-skill jobs just so they can start paying their loan bills right away. As a result, graduates in debt often miss out on the benefits that come with a degree. According to a CNBC report, 85% of student loan borrowers say difficulty in saving has delayed their ability to buy a house, and other research indicates that those with student loan debt also are less likely to have taken out car loans. They have worse credit scores. They appear to be more likely to be living with their parents. Defaults and delinquencies are also more common with student loan debt than just about any other kind. What's worse, according to Rohit Chopra of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, is that many of these borrowers aren't even graduating. These borrowers take on some debt but do not benefit from the wage increase associated with a degree. Last but not least, the prospect of such overwhelming debt is making an increasing number of students, especially low-income students, think twice about attending college at all, a decision that will compound the already impending shortage of educated employees facing the U.S. workforce. President Joe Biden recognizes the threats of growing student loan debt. As president, Biden has canceled $11.5 billion of student loans. In 2021, the U.S. Secretary of Education Miguel Cardona announced that $2 billion of student loans will be canceled. Biden understands the key drivers of student loan debt growth, including, according to the report, that the rise in tuition has outpaced the rise in access to financial aid. To address this, Biden has pushed for a historic expansion of Pell Grants.
Immediate $10,000 forgiveness of student loans. It should be done immediately.
The Education Department also is holding student loan servicers and for-profit schools more accountable for outcomes. As the authors note, there is unfettered access to federal student loans, which can result in increased defaults. At the same time, additional student loan borrowing is encouraged, while some student loan repayment plans reward higher income earners with large student loan balances, which can create a regressive system. Biden is focused on simplifying student loan repayment, canceling $4.5 billion of student loans for public servants, and increasing targeted student loan cancellation in the near term for more student loan borrowers. Student loans started to help lower and middle-income American families finance part of the cost of college. But today, a tool meant to help individuals secure a brighter future has instead, too often, morphed into years of default and financial struggle for many borrowers in their households, and student loan debt is rising at an insurmountable rate. The Center for American Progress has previously called on the Biden administration to cancel student debt. As the administration has made lowering costs for families their number one priority, targeted student loan cancellation is a critical next step.